Good morning, welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. This is Daybreak, and lovely to have you here on the broadcast. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at CitizenTV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Professor Lukoye Atuole is the Dean Medical College, East Africa at the Aga Khan University. Good morning, Prof.
Morning.
Lovely having you here on the broadcast. Ahmed Hashi, good morning.
Hi, cousin. How are you? Nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me. You're my cousin, you know. It's other people are calling each other cousin. What's wrong with me calling you hi, cousin?
And to Prof as well.
Hi, Kuzo.
Hi, Kuzo.
Professor Maxwell Miawa is lecturer in international development law expert. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
Thank you, much appreciated. And Professor Peter Kagwanja is the Chief Executive Officer of the Africa Policy Institute. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, good morning. Hi, Kuzo.
Hi to you too, and good morning. Welcome to the broadcast all. So let's begin with a look at the full entry ahead for the IEBC and the accompanying, the other, of course, areas of concern for the Kenyan public, and the papers this morning highlight that the Standard expressing the same on Kenya's rapid slide into anarchy says raises fears of violence in the 2027 elections. Experts link protest violence to the 2027 contest, and also some of the sentiments that have been made by the leaders in the country regarding the IEBC and the elections in 2027. First to you, Professor Lukoye. What do you make of it? Seems that it's a deja vu feeling altogether.
I think the political history in this country has been very interesting in the sense that before every election, especially after the onset of multi-party politics, there is always orchestration of chaos, orchestration of violence, as though that's the only method by which we acquire and keep power. I think we need to be a little bit more thoughtful about how we do our politics. And one of the things that I have always said is that if you get into power in Kenya under the 2010 Constitution, you must be comfortable with being uncomfortable, in the sense that there will be opposition. Yeah. There will be people who are against you. There will be people who do not like you, and you need to be comfortable with that if you're going to run a Kenyan government under the 2010 Constitution. As a young person said the other day, there's no requirement that the people who are being led love the people who are leading them. And as a leader, you need to get into that position of leadership knowing that you carry certain responsibilities, and nobody has to like what you do. And in fact, there will be a huge number of people who do not like what you do. There will be a large number of people who want to do what you're doing, and you just need to be comfortable with that. Yeah. So this orchestration of violence, these killings, this crazy stuff that we are seeing, it's absolutely unnecessary, in my view.
Yeah. And Ahmed, coming to you, certainly for anyone who subscribes to mainstream religions, we appreciate that God has divided us into nations and peoples. And Kenya is, in that regard, an ethno-majoritarian democracy. But are you concerned with the ethnic undertones and what appears to be a systematic isolation of some in the context of what's happening politically in the country?
You know, we have a psychologist, I presume he's a clinical psychologist. And there's a psychiatrist. So there's this guy called Nietzsche, who said that in individuals, madness is rare. But in groups, in parties, and in nations, madness is the rule. Or even in an epoch, I mean an epoch of madness. I think Kenya is experiencing its own madness. And you know, sometimes madness is good for a nation because it returns authenticity back to the public space. I remember saying here last time that if something was not authentic, there's no change, and a nation then does not become authentic. And what has happened is that we have a leader in this country who has not moved on to the point of authenticity that the people want, and the people who have moved on to authenticity. So there is not a clash of civilizations between groups, there's a clash of authenticity in this country. And how is that explained? You know, Mr. Ruto has, President Ruto, our president, has used religion, has used ethnicity, has used thuggishness, has used the police, has used everything. His bag is now empty. And the people of Kenya are still standing there and saying that they want accountability, reform, and change in this society. You see the Minister of Internal Security, who is probably the most, is the spokesman of the government today, and his deputy, Mr. Duale, who continue to lose votes for Kenya Kwanza, Kenya Kwisha, as it's called in the public now, because of their remarks in the public space. And it is a form of madness when you see the government speaking in such terms. I do not need to repeat my condolences to Bridget, who is being buried, was buried yesterday, Githuguri, a 12-year-old who has lost her life out of no cause at all, no cause at all. And I think that it is very important for us, Ayub, as thought leaders, public intellectuals, and leaders in our own right, to say that there is no other way in this country but to have an election in the time that the writ is dropped in Parliament for us to have an election. But we are speaking from a certain vantage point of sober people. But the young people outside there in the country that have no time for this administration, have no time for elections, and just simply want transformation in this society. We have got to, as I said, have a national convention, as I said last time, so that we can start airing out all these views and bring it to the front, Ayub.
And Professor Maxwell, is the debate on now the intergenerational clash, what Ahmed has said, the clash of civilizations, as pointed out by Professor Samuel Huntington. Is Kenya's on right now then the discussion on the intergenerational conflict at the moment and the divide which appears to be widening by the day between those in leadership and those who are led and certainly are the donors of the sovereign power, the people?
There is actually no intergenerational conflict or clash, in my view, either between the young generation and my generation or the old generation. These are actually political imaginations. The fact and the reality of the matter is this, that we have a young generation, a young population who is more conscious, perhaps courtesy of the digital transformation, the age in which we live in. The fact that young people are more conscious of their rights, are more conscious about their future, and are demanding a great deal more from the government about their posterity, has got really nothing to do with how we manage our politics, particularly competitive or majoritarian politics of elections. Actually, the older generation was actually more conscious at that particular point in time because of the status at that particular point. When we look at the contemporary politics, particularly competitive politics, one thing we have to be conscious about is that elections are inherently, characterized by contestation, protestation as well. Reason being that we still live, we still have elections that is still a winner-take-all, competitive politics where the winners will always celebrate, while the losers will always protest and contest those elections. Now, the great advantage we have in this very day is that we have a very conscious population, people who know everything that is happening, people who demand of government, of change and transformation on a daily basis. And I think that is really a positive thing. That is really a positive thing. That's why, as the new IEBC takes office, one thing they have to be conscious about is that we live in a different time and generation. Different from 1992, different from 2002, and completely different from 2017. People have information at their fingertips. Information spreads within 2 seconds. So I think that is something that the IEBC has to be conscious about. how they treat people's feelings, sensitivities, including sensibilities in this election time will be so important. But this imagination, creations of, intergenerational conflict is neither here nor there. I can tell Hashim that.
Okay. You can tell Kagwanja too. He's the main author. He's the main author of that thing. Mine is a class perspective. This is a generational perspective.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
It's all right. Well, I'm shocked that you didn't notice that I have a watch. and Mohammed was salivating this morning.
I have one.
You can see it. I've just removed. I've not even removed the plastic cover.
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah. But it's very different from the one of Murkomen. Yeah. This one, Professor, I was going to one of the TV stations down River Road, and a young man approached me and said, "Professor, my children are out. My house has been locked, and I don't know what to do." Then he offered to sell this watch to me, and I bought it. I did not need a watch at this age and time. When you have a mobile phone, you don't need a watch really, except if it's an ornament. So, for poverty, contribution to the problem of poverty, I bought it. So it's not as expensive as that of Murkomen or in his class, but it serves the nation. So I'm very, very proud of this, and I wear it as my contribution to poverty alleviation. That aside, are we in a class of generations? I don't think this is a perfect class of generations. When I wrote put forward that thesis of clash of generations in 2002, I was looking at Uhuru Kenyatta and Mwai Kibaki. There was no ethnicity at that time. Yes, Prof. Let me just fix your mic. And get you some clear. Yeah, Shotel, I'll be coming back to you. Yes, Prof.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. I wanted to point out this, that at independence, if you looked at the government that came into power at independence, the cabinet at independence, there were young people. There were young people. There were people in their 30s, and there were people in their early 40s. There were young people, and this is the nature. This country is a very young country. More than 70% of the population are under the age of 35. So there will be young people. There's absolutely, in my view, not a clash of generations, if you like, because if there was a clash of generations, that war would be lost at the beginning. The old folk would have absolutely no say. What is there is, as my colleague has said, there's a change in how people view politics. The young people have read the Constitution. The young people have read the law. The young people believe in the promise of the Constitution, unlike the older generations who thought this is a tool for the rulers to control us and so on. The young people look at the Constitution as a thing they have given themselves. And they believe in the promise of that Constitution. And when it says you have a right to do this and to do that and to do that, they go ahead and do it. And they do not expect anybody to stop them from doing it. So I think this is what we have to, the mind shift that has to happen in the political sphere is that we are taking care of a population that believes in what we wrote into the Constitution and what we wrote into the law. They actually believe it or not. In the past, during the KANU era, people looked at the law and the Constitution as tools for the government. Okay. As do not do this, do not do this. If you do this, I'll kill you. If you do this, I will jail you. Today, they look at those same tools as empowerment tools. Yeah. Things that allow us to express ourselves, allow us to decide how we want to be governed, allow us to decide how our resources are going to be used. And as soon as that mind shift happens, there'll be peace in this land. But as long as that mind shift has not happened, there will always be protestation, there will always be chaos, and there will always be, demonstrastrations.
Yeah. And before I get back to Professor Peter Kagwanja, Ahmed, I'll come to you shortly. So I'm sure now it's fixed. Yes, Prof, you had a point. I hope. And apologies, yeah, it's now clear.
Is it now clear?
Yeah.
No, I was jinxed by that one, yeah. That's why today we sat on opposite sides. I'm not sure we're friends. I would say when we put the thesis of clash of generations in 2002, ahead of the election between Mwai Kibaki and Uhuru Kenyatta, it was a perfect situation. And the young people that time were posing it as the old versus the young. So it was very, very contextual in the sense that this is a young man in his 50s, and this is an old man in his 70s. That was Kibaki. And the debate really caught up. I think a number of, at that time, President Moi is actually the one who sponsored that crash, because I'm giving a young person to defeat these old people, and myself, I'm also going home. So it was because of state-fueled at the time. But you'll notice that one of the lessons we learned as a country is that when we polarize our politics, along another identity other than the ethnicity, we don't have bloodshed. So in 2002, we didn't have as much. I know the Mungikis and others were here and there, but it was not your typical crash that we experienced in 1992 or 1997. That was very peaceful. It was one of the most peaceful transitions we have had over time. So people now came to see that if you are to win an election and the election does not end up in this post-election violence, it is important to polarize or to organize your politics around any other identity. So William Ruto organized his politics in 2022 on class. And he now brought in the hustlers versus the ordinary, the wealthy.
The haves versus the have-nots.
The haves versus the have-nots, the hustlers versus dynasties, and all that thing that connoted class and, whatever goes with it. So in 2027, the game is about tyranny versus democracy. It is not, class, or generation or class. It is basically tyranny versus democracy. And tyranny here, because we have a constitution, and this is the most paradoxical thing about us. We have the best constitution on the African continent today. We have some of the best institutions for protecting democracy, including NCIC and so on. We have these, extra-constitutional sort of judicial kind of, institutions. I don't know how to define them, because they are not 100% in the government. And they are not 100% outside the government.
They're called independent officers.
They are supposed to be independent in the sense that they stand for the people. They are the protectors of that Section 1. And that's why they were created there. But are they functioning? No.
Okay.
They've lost it. So the answer to your question straight is simply that we are not experiencing a crash of generations. We are not experiencing a crash of civilizations, and we are not experiencing a crash of ethnicities. We are experiencing a crash between values, the value of democracy and the evil of tyranny.
Okay, and gentlemen, when we get back from the break, we have an hour, enough time to run through that, and Prof then seek further answers to whether that shift then to the clash between tyranny and democracy will be aided by the diversity, intermarriages, interfaith marriages, and a generation that today rarely subscribes to religion or even ethnicity, and who can rarely speak their mother languages, and the question of campaign financing and the exorbitance in also how money is spent within the political circles by the political establishment. My panel will be back with that after the break here on the broadcast, and the hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We are back with more after the break. Stay tuned.